Thank you, Richard. I'm going now to present Brian Levy from HP. O Brian é o CTO, Chief Technical Officer, da Unidade de Negócios de Communications and Media Solutions da HP. Ele lidera esta comunidade globalmente. Antes de entrar na HP, o Brian era responsável pelas áreas de tecnologia, serviço, estratégia e inovação na British Telecom. Brian, welcome, and the stage is yours.
Thank you. Thank you. As you hear, I'm Brian Levy, CTO of HP's worldwide communications, media, and entertainment business. I've been in the industry for, next year, 40 years. But my daughter tells me that I'm an old guy, but I'm a cool guy as well. So that's quite good as well. So don't hold it against me as we go through. I thought I'd show you a couple of perspectives on things today. Something a bit new, but some facts, some interesting things. And I was in the BBC for 10 years. And one of the things that's good is that I see that the broadcasting industry, as you can see from the figures, is still growing. They're talking about a figure of 291 billion value of that industry worldwide in 2012. But what is concerning at the same time as that is that if you look at the value of that industry, 52% of the value of the industry comes from advertising. Okay? Now, if you're a broadcaster and you're looking at that, you're a little bit worried about this internet thing that's coming along because there's all these new sources of content. There are all these new channels on satellite TV. And what you find is there's a whole fragmentation of your revenue base happening. And what's the effect of that? Well, recently, one of the biggest broadcasters in the UK is the ITV, the Independent Television Network. And they recently had to cut back and get rid of, as you can see from the slide, hundreds of jobs in the company because the revenues weren't coming in anymore from the advertisers. The whole nature of broadcasting is changing on the internet. It's changing the very nature of the industry. And today, as you hear from Anna, you don't need to be the BBC to get your programming out to millions and millions of people. Hulu is just a year old, and there are 140 million videos from Hulu being downloaded every single month. It's an amazing, amazing figure. Let's see if I can get the next slide. I'm pressing the button, and nothing's happening. I'll try again. Here we go. At the same time as what's going on in terms of broadcasting, we see a change actually in the mobile industry. Smartphones are moving into the consumer marketplace. And I looked at some of the figures recently that said that this year the amount of data in mobile networks worldwide had risen nearly 5 times. It was 5 times more data. So you would think that would be great for all the mobile operators in the world. But at the same time, just last quarter, the revenue return to the industry dropped 2%. So 5 times the amount of data going into mobile networks, but the value that's being returned dropping. Would you be concerned if you were in that industry? Maybe. Especially when you get somebody like the CEO of Nokia Siemens, who must know quite a bit about the industry, who says, well, actually what we expect is there'll be a 300-fold growth. You can see the figures on this particular slide by 2015. At the same time, there's only going to be a 3-fold growth in the revenue for that 300-fold growth in data traffic. These are some of the challenges facing the industries as we see this whole thing moving forward. Now, it was very interesting to hear recently from Bob Iger, who talked about Hulu and their investment, as you know, that they've got in Hulu, from Disney. And he said that people are going to start paying. It's not going to all be free. You were pleased to know this, Anna. There's going to be lots of money out there to make. Awesome. Yeah, cool. So I thought, well, that's quite a good sign. Maybe there'll be money coming back into the industry. We don't have to worry about the lack of revenue coming in on the mobile side of the industry. But then this is an interesting slide. So I was reading Forbes, and you see how my slides are up to date, 16th of November, 2009. This could be a worrying thing for Facebook, by the way, because just look at this thing. I'd never heard of it. Have you ever heard of this thing? Carpathia Hosting. Does that mean anything to you guys? Anybody put the hand up? Knows about that? I didn't know anything about it. I looked at this and I read this thing and it said 0.6% of online traffic in July came from them. 0.6%. You got that? Never heard of them. Never even heard of it. Mega Video. Well, actually, I found out from my daughter what Mega Video was all about with a bit of looking around. And then they came up with these figures. It said that this was twice as much bandwidth as consumed by Facebook, and half as much as used by all of Microsoft's internet properties worldwide. This has just happened in a few weeks. You know, what this shows me is the dynamism in the internet is really quick. Things happen, changes happen at lightning speeds. And this content is free. Okay? So one person saying, you know, we're going to get money out of all this content, suddenly you see a dynamic thing happening in the internet. And not many people even heard about it in the room. No, I hadn't. That's just 3 days ago, 3 or 4 days ago. And of course, we hear all about user-generated content. There is a value now being put against user-generated content from the industry, so it's becoming business. You know, advertisers are looking to associate advertising with user-generated content, and you can see the value of this market. I was interested to look at it. You know, $200 million, rising to these figures of 2.46 billion. You know, this is going to be a huge market in the future. Tremendous value in user-generated content. It's not all going to be free. There's going to be new ways, new value chains, whole new ways that this is going to be monetized. Now, I started in British Telecom back in the ancient days of gas lamps in 1970. Back in 1970. And back in 1970, it was a very simple world. Where there were wires, that's where there were services. If there were no wires, there were no services. Along came the internet, and it changed all of that. You know, it changed all of that. And there was a whole new geography. The geography used to be where the wires were, right? For PT, where PT's wires were. But the new geography was different. In 1980, I was in the BBC, as I said, and BBC broadcast to the UK, but now it's on the internet. So where does it broadcast? It broadcasts to the whole world, to a whole world who like that type of music. There's a new geography. That's the geography of community. So the geography of the internet now for services is a community geography and not a physical geography. It's a massive change. How does PT compete with that, with its limited geography? These are big challenges for the industry. It's a changing environment. This is a picture of my daughter. She's about the same kind of age. And that's what she looks like with all these controls around everywhere. It's amazing. I come from, you can see that vertical column that says the TV generation. I come from the TV generation. But I evolved into the PC generation. You know, when I started work, when you went to work for a company, you stayed there your whole life. That was, you were loyal to the company. You know, nobody leaves PT, nobody leaves BT. It's forever. And then I discovered, you know, the world changed a bit, and I moved to be the PC generation. You know, I discovered the web. The web was useful, and contacts worldwide. To my daughter, the web is oxygen. Cut her off. Not connected. Dad, can you come and fix my PC? But the minute I fixed it, go! And by the way, she wants identity, you know. I am not allowed on her Facebook page. No way. You know, anyway. We have to cope with all these different generations, actually. But it's very interesting to see this evolution. Let's have the next slide, please. I think one of the other presenters yesterday talked about the era of mass customization. We're certainly in the middle of that, you know. The internet has enabled this tremendous ability to customize services for the individual. You know, I remember back in the UK in my early days, there were 2 television channels, you know, about 4 newspapers, you know. How many channels are there on the internet? And I'm in charge now, you know, and she's certainly in charge. Nobody tells her what she's going to watch. She is the expert on everything. Yeah, and the services have to be customized for her. And the internet has been the tremendous enabler for this mass customized world. I believe we're also moving from this world of devices that we're in at the moment to this world of the person, the personalized world of services. There are many services that you subscribe to, Facebook. When I got Facebook, you know, do I care really what device I'm consuming it on? Whether, you know, at the end of the day, I want to use Facebook, you know? It's a service for me. It recognizes me. More and more services are going to be like that. They're going to run across many different devices. And one of the jobs of companies like HP is to make it simpler from a device perspective for these things to happen. Today, there are a lot of discontinuities between devices. And that's going to go away to some extent. Okay. And I think it was actually Richard that talked about the convergence of devices. And very interestingly enough, there's a new phone that's just come out from Intel. It's being sold by Verizon in the States as one of the first companies that's selling it. And it's already got this Atom chip in it. And that's the same chip that you find in a netbook. So this convergence between phone technology and PC technology is moving at a tremendous pace. The ability to squeeze the whole of a PC into the form factor of a phone, to make it the same size as a phone, technically we're almost there. And that phone can communicate with new wireless technology, with screens and keyboards. A thing called ultra-wideband that's quicker than Bluetooth today. So you're going to have the ability for this device to connect to a screen, to connect to a keyboard. What is it? Is it a phone? Is it a PC? Who the hell cares, right? Nobody, right? So these things are becoming the same thing. And the ability to dock a phone into a device and turn it into a laptop by inserting the phone into a little container in the laptop, these sorts of things are all becoming possible. We're going to see lots of crossover devices in the future. And I believe we're also on the verge of the mass portability of digital media. You know, television used to be just in the home. We're moving away from all of that. The ability to not just listen to music, but to watch video, to consume things wherever you are, all the time, and always connected. Now, there are two principal ways. I'll just go be a CTO for a minute. That media, by the way, when I was younger, I'd love one of these. You know, it was all about the size of the hi-fi you had in your car, you know. The two ways that media can be transported, one way is by memory, and the other way is by transmission. Okay, and they're very, very important. And we're still going to see physical media, you know, it'll be beyond the DVD. It's still very useful to have the physical media containers. But you're also going to see in transmission. It's not going to be one or the other. Don't believe that it's all going to go away and everything's going to be online, because I don't believe that for lots of reasons. There's going to be massive, massive storage in the end device that you've actually got. You know, you see 32 gigs in devices, you see 64, 128, phenomenal storage in the device. So it's not all going to be in the network. And let me explain what some of the evolutions that we might see very, very soon. Well, you probably have a set-top box connected to your television these days for digital television at home. And I remember when the PVR, the personal video recorder, came out, it was fantastic. You could shift time. You know, it used to be you had to be there to watch the film. Now you don't have to do that anymore. But now what we're moving to is the two-dimensional PVR, the ability to shift time and place at the same time. 2 dimensions, time and place. And this will be done by the mobile device when you walk in your home, will connect to the set-top box and synchronize, and you'll be able to take away the content. So what does that look like? Well, imagine your PVR today. You have a menu, and you go in, and you can set record, right? Now you'll be able to set synchronize with your mobile device, so you've got sync to mobile. And that'll be personal to the person, because it's your mobile that you want to get it. Right? And then you've got send to mobile. So if you're not at home, you'll have the ability for that PVR to redirect, to send that file to you in the right format to go to your phone. And then you can log into that device, and you can basically get it to stream and connect to it as well. Now, this convergence that we're seeing at the moment, I wish I could get this to work, means that it's not just about broadcast television. This is a podcast which will also be connected in, because the set-top box is likely to be connected both into your broadcast transmission and into the internet, so you're receiving from both. And there's another very successful young lady who decided she loved new devices, and she was a Canadian lady, and she got her podcast onto iTunes. Do you know how many downloads there are of this podcast, which is called Geek Brief TV? It tells you all about the latest gadgets. 6.5 million downloads a month, right, from her. So if she wants a gadget now, do you think she ever has to pay for a new gadget? Right? Fantastic, yeah? So this whole thing about new broadcast, and this will have the same thing. Synchronize to mobile, connect to mobile, sync when you go home. This convergence, in fact, the home is going to become a cache for mobile devices, a kind of a storage element for mobility. This whole evolution is just beginning. And that's using memory. Now, with television today, you don't know really who's watching. Companies don't know. But once it's downloading a file to you from the television, then they will. And you'll have the ability to personalize the advertising that's in that broadcast transmission. So what you can do is you can receive off air the transmission, and you can insert from the internet advertisements that are just for you. And this is the sort of thing we're going to see. And we're going to see the development of electronic program guides that you see today being for the family of the device, now being for the person. There will be a program guide just for you in the cloud of the internet. Now, I worked with a lot of very major companies across the world, and I was talking to News Corporation about their magazines. They're actually seeing the physical form going down of magazines, the sales of the physical magazine. Of course, the online is growing. But they've got a problem. And the problem is this. Elle magazine, great magazine if you're interested in fashion. Right? You see the latest Paris fashions in Elle magazine in Lisbon. But do you want the advertisement for New York that tells you where you can buy them? No. You want the advertisement of where you can buy them in Lisbon. All right? Now, well, they've got to do this for online magazines in every single country. This is a big problem of technology that they've got to solve, because it's not just Elle magazine, it's every single one of their publications. Take another thing, the Ministry of Sound Radio. I never even heard of this, but my daughter had. The Ministry of Sound Radio transmits dance music on the internet to millions of people worldwide. Not a station I listen to, but millions of people. And they transmit the raves in Ibiza that you can go to go and dance to this music. But I don't want to know about the raves in Ibiza when I'm in London. They've got the same problem of how they convert the advertising. This whole issue of localization of content and how that's going to be done is also a big challenge for the industry. And there's massive amounts of money in that value chain. Because what that station can do, it can then monetize advertising across the world instead of in one place. That's a huge opportunity for a small broadcaster who's got a niche area that they can actually use.
So, Ryan, about
3 minutes.
3 minutes, yes.
In the interest of that, I'm going to skip a couple. Next. Okay. I wanted to talk quickly about DECE. This is an initiative from 3 of the major studios in the world that we're working on, which will allow you to run to get content and have it available on multiple devices when you buy it. One of the big problems today that my daughter hates is she buys music and it only works on one device. So we're working together with the 3 major studios. We're working together with Samsung, we're working together with Sony, and we're working together with Microsoft. You'll see announcements of this at CES in January. And the ability to go to somebody like Walmart and Best Buy and download the music or the video and play it on more than one device. So this problem that we've seen of the industry is beginning to change. Next slide. Next slide, thank you. We are one of the founding members. The great thing to see is you've got the studios and the consumer electronics manufacturers like Samsung, Sony, and HP. You'll be able to obviously put Cisco, of course, in there as well, Alcatel, all coming together to really create a new experience for the customer. And this will be a new, very important format for digital music and video, where in fact when you buy the DVD, you'll be able to put that in the player, and it will allow you to get the license so you can download to your phone. All this linkage between physical and other media. It's a multiple kind of multiple device and multiple store kind of scenario. But unfortunately, there isn't just one format, because just as DEC had got out there in the market, Disney announced another thing called Key Chest, which is exactly the same thing, but from another set of partners. And so we're going to see the same war we saw with HD DVD and Blu-ray now going on in the new digital cross-platform market. Eventually this will standardize, but it's really silly that we're seeing the same thing again. I wanted to talk about one other aspect, and then I'm on my final slide. We're in a world of ecosystems. Just buying an iPhone, if it didn't have the iTunes and the content and everything else, you wouldn't buy it. So if you go and get maybe an iPod from somebody else, and it's got all the same features and maybe more, but it doesn't connect to iTunes, it doesn't have the content, would you buy it? We really need to understand this new world that we're in of the ecosystem, and it's really going to affect the whole industry. I'm pressing. So, my final slide. Okay? Right. I said earlier on that the service geography had really changed. We're moving from this geography of physical geography to this geography of community. We really need to understand that, because when you're looking at services, you're looking at addressable markets, that's a really key thing. We're in this world of ecosystems, you know, not systems, not networks, not devices anymore. It's not about one of those things. The customer is now firmly in charge. Not even the content is king, because there is so much content out there for my daughter to watch. She is really driving things, you know, now. For traditional service providers, you know, PT, BT, AT&T, this change of geography, this change in the whole way that services are being provided is a huge challenge. You saw the change in what's happening with mobile data, all of these things. And it's a challenge of cultural evolution more than it's a challenge of technology evolution. It really is a cultural change. New business models are evolving at lightning speed. Just look when I showed you about mega video. You ever heard of that? Look at the massive amount of traffic on the internet in just a few months. Amazing, right? More than Facebook. Amazing, right? These continual changes are going to keep on going. User-generated content will represent a significant portion of the internet, and new broadcasters are going to appear from all over the world and from all different parts of society. And finally, I'd just like to say what's clear to me is that the people that really truly grasp this revolution will prosper, you know? But it is going to be the case that for many people, this is a case of change or really cease to exist. There is no choice. It's an evolve or die world. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian, for your brilliant presentation.